Welcome in, one and all, to another episode of Fresh Shaves. I'm Regan Boyce, aka Pink Demon, and if I get a little woozy during this review, please cut me some slack. I just came from the blood bank, so I'm running on a little bit empty right now. And hey, if you're able to donate blood, you should. And if you're not sure that you're able to donate blood, you should check it out. They've made a lot of progress in the last few years about who can and can't donate. You used to have to wait 4 months for a tattoo. It's now 1 week. I got this little guy and a little Kirby tattoo, like 3 weeks ago, and I was able to donate blood today. That's awesome. That is so good, considering how important it is. But I'm not going to grandstand on that anymore. What I do want to talk about today, something that's really cool. The artist and album I'm reviewing today isn't one I picked up organically. They've actually reached out to me after seeing my Nightlight review and wanted to put their music in front of me and see if I click with it. And as you can already tell, you clicked into this video, I'm going to talk about it. And spoiler alert, I really liked it. So if you're an artist out there and you're watching this and you have new content coming out soon or it's just come out, please reach out to me. I can't promise I'll review everything that I listen to, but if I listen to it and I think I can, string together 5 to 10 minutes of conversation about it, I'll definitely talk about it. Now, admittedly, I'm a little out of my wheelhouse on this one. The artist is ŽIVA, and the album is ŽIVA with 2 I's. I would like to first start off by apologizing if that's not the correct pronunciation. I am not well versed in any Croatian or Slavic cultures, so forgive me for any pronunciations or literally anything else I get wrong. I'm also not particularly well versed in electronic genres. Like your grandma called every console that you ever had a Game Boy. That's me with every electronic genre. They're all techno to me. Although I am now experienced enough to know that they're actually not all techno. But as for this dark wave / witch house sound, my extent of that is probably the Perfect Dark soundtrack on the Nintendo 64. And that's semi-tongue-in-cheek, but it was a banger soundtrack, and people find a lot of different paths to genres they love. So, if you discovered Witch House or Darkwave through the Perfect Dark soundtrack and loved it, good for you. I discovered Metallica through a meme compilation video on YouTube, and now I'm married to, a beautiful woman, the love of my life, that I met at a metal show. So, we all find our own paths at life, and they start at weird points sometimes. But no matter how you got here, you're here right now, so let's get into it. Now, at first, I was a bit confused by the name, the album name being the artist's name, but with an extra I in it. Again, I thought it might be a language quirk, and then I saw the album cover and put it up on screen now. Thank you, editor. I edit my own videos. And I actually really like how it's stylized. It's a really cool design choice for a second self-titled album to just use the I as the Roman numeral for 2. Really clever. I really appreciate that. The album itself starts off really strong. I feel like in the first kind of 30 seconds, maybe 30 to a minute, you get a sample of what you're in for over the next 30 minutes, and it's delivered in a way that just really hooked me in. Very first thought through my head is we have Ice Peak at home, which is really cool because that's a sound that I'd say typically stands alone in the entire music sphere. I wasn't really expecting kind of anyone in Australia to even attempt that, let alone do it so well that honestly ŽIVA is doing more of what I like in Ice Peak than Ice Peak does. And what I mean by that is Ice Peak can get really abrasive at times, whereas ŽIVA, the electronics are dark and they can get, heavy, but they're never unlistenable, and it never sacrifices technicality for approachability. The compositions are still quite deep. There's a lot there on repeat listens. You're really finding new things every time. But I always felt like I had my hand held as I was led through this strange land. Not that I was just being thrown in a deep end of very abstract art music. And I think how they've achieved that is they've got that very dark wave / dark pop, experimental hip-hop almost sound on the verses. But then constantly underlying that is just these infectious, danceable beats. It invokes a lot of involuntary head bobbing and just kind of body movement and a real yearning for a dance floor in a dark room. So, after hearing this, obviously whenever you see a local artist post up an album like this, the first thing you do is there an album launch show? And there is. I'll throw up the details at the end of the video. I really looking forward to that, because, yeah, this is music that makes me want to move, but still, pretty heavy, pretty dark. And I think it is that Croatian folk element to it, which adds that mystique, especially in the current Western world. Slavic cultures still have a very foreign feel to them, and I think a lot of that is being enforced through our media, through like horror movies and stuff as well. You hear those acoustic folk Slavic sounds, and you think of, little babushka giving you the evil eye. And while in a broader social setting that's probably a very negative stereotype, it is used to a good effect here to enhance the music, and I feel it's bringing that kind of horror movie setting brought on by what's like the folky ritual horror movie? Oh shit, by the guy that did Vivitch. Midsummer. I was thinking of Midsummer, and that's not by Robert Eggers. I got that wrong. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is movies like The Witch and Midsummer have really left recent culture with this old world folk linked to horror. And I find that the folk elements in ŽIVA bring forth that kind of feeling. And it really adds the dark to the dark wave. That being said, I'm a big baby when it comes to horror movies, so I fuck heavy with the more upbeat songs like Head Above Ground and Hopeless Pleasures. My biggest critique of the album is probably that it lacks an earworm quality. I came back to it really frequently, and yet I never found myself humming a tune from it idly. And I enjoyed coming back to it. I was actually really looking forward to putting it on when I was at work. And even with a backlog of albums to review, it never felt like a chore to listen to this and write down my notes compared to some of the albums I've done recently or yet to do. I mean, if you watch my last video on Lamb of God, just look how bored I looked even talking about the album. It was never like that. It was always kind of like, oh cool, I've got time to listen to albums to review. The first one I went to was this every time, because it was a pleasant point to start. I've been like, yeah, I actually want to listen to this and I want to talk about it. I want to put it out in front of people and say like, hey, check out this. This is really cool. This is really unique. No one else in Melbourne is doing this. No one else in Australia is doing this. And even on a global stage, very few people are doing this. And it's awesome. After all those repeat listens, I've come to love almost the entire album. There's only one song that I probably skip now whenever I listen to it, and that's Undertow. I think it has merit within its artistic composition of the album, but, especially being a musician in the art space, you've always got this balance of music as art and music as entertainment. I feel like other mediums don't have that as much as music does. I feel like, once you go into material arts and physical arts, you can go full art. You don't really need to be entertaining. Fine art in a gallery, it can be entertaining, but it can also just be entirely abstract and no one raises an eyebrow. Movies, there's a bit more expectation to be entertaining, but you can still have real artistic pieces that aren't so much entertaining, but they are thought-provoking and they still get a pass. When it comes to music, unless you're in like the harsh noise space or anything like that, like real fringe stuff, there is an expectation to be as entertaining, if not more entertaining, than you are artistic. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a very hard balance, and I think 9 times out of 10, ŽIVA is striking smack bang in the middle of that balance. These are really cool artistic expressions, but also really entertaining. I think Undertow is just the one where it's struck just a little bit, off-center, and it's a little bit more artistic than it is entertaining. But that's just my take as well. I imagine if there's someone who's come into this from, that Slavic cultural side, they'll probably listen to Undertow and be like, oh, this actually has some of the most of that in there. This is my in point to the album. This is what I love most. So, it's really just different things for different people. But for me, that's the one where I'm like, man, it's not doing what I like that the rest of the album is doing. On the topic of artistic presentation, I want to touch on the physical release because it is something very unique. For the actual CD, there's no album art, but it's got this really cool 3D printed sleeve that fits around the clear case, and I just love how it looks. The part of me that loves people putting effort into their physical media and the presentation of their physical media, I love this deeply, and I think it's awesome, and I just love that people are experimenting with it. As I've said in past reviews, I've started going through K-pop shops with my wife, and the way they present their physical media is so creative. that when I then go to a gig and I go to the merch table at a metal show and it's all just boring CDs, I'm like, damn, we're not really trying, are we? So when I see anything where anyone's trying, I just latch onto it. I'm like, look at this, look how cool this is. I'm like, I've had people in conversations be like, oh, well, those K-pop bands, they've got major label backing, millions of dollars. Okay, ŽIVA doesn't have millions of dollars as far as I know. They appear to be an independent artist, and they're doing awesome shit, so there's no excuse, alright? Stop making excuses, you're just lazy. Independent artists can do cool shit with presenting their physical media, and ŽIVA has done a great job of that. However, the part of me that puts all my CDs in a bookcase is dreading when I have to deal with this. I might have to create a little section where I put, exceptions, basically. Things with odd shapes or materials that might damage the cases around them. I'm already looking at some of the edges on this shell and thinking that if it's next to a digipack that just has a cardboard cover, not a CD case, it's probably going to scratch up the artwork of the CDs either side of it. And I've already got stuff in there that does that. I've got one that's in a leather sleeve, and think of like sitting on a leather couch on a hot day and then peeling your skin off. It's done that to the artwork on the CDs other side of it. So from a collector's standpoint, god damn it, how dare you? You're going to ruin my day. But from an appreciator of the arts, A+. Love it. So if you couldn't tell by now, I really recommend checking out this album, and I'm greatly appreciative of ŽIVA for reaching out to me. It can be hard to put yourself out there. Heck, I get anxious sharing these reviews in places that are like set up for people to share content that they make, and I'm still like, oh man, what if no one wants to hear about it? So good on ŽIVA for reaching out to me, because you've made at least one fan from doing that. I know at least 3 people that I'm reaching out to personally to be like, hey, strong recommendation, I think you particularly will fuck with this. And then beyond that, I'm putting this out there. I hope anyone who watches this goes and checks it out, because I think there's a lot of enjoyment to be found in it. Plus, I'm going to try and drag as many people as possible to the album launch, because I don't like going to a show alone, which is outside of my scene, because I get anxious being in a crowd where I don't know people. So I'm going to drag as many people to that, and if you're watching, you're invited. Details will be on screen now. Editor put that in, and I'm just going to give a few seconds so that you can read that poster. It is at the Cactus Room in Thornbury on Friday the 17th of April at 8 p.m. Tickets on sale at OzTix, where it is promised that there will be a full night of dark, high-intensity live performance. That sounds pretty good to me. I hope that sounds good to you. I hope this album sounds good to you. And most of all, thank you for watching. If you've watched to this point, just know that I really appreciate you. Just like I'm sure ŽIVA will appreciate everyone who goes and checks out their album and who goes to their album launch show. So I hope to catch you there. And if not, until next time, peace out.